how does the owner of the building feel about it?
He said yeah.
Okay.
He said yeah. I talked to him about this meeting, and he was, he's busy, but he was fine.
Okay.
In fact, they're constantly working in the community. They went together with Bethel. Bethel bought the property, and we did a switcheroo with the property so Bethel would have parking space. Because if you notice all around here, it's almost impossible to park. And Bethel didn't have a parking lot, which meant that they were going to be pushed out as far as being able to have parking. So when my grandfather died, the house went to his wife. When my grandmother died, it went to one of my cousins. Okay, and she was having problems because she was having a series of problems, and she actually lost the house due to taxes. Okay, so when my mother found out she had lost the house due to taxes, she gets on the phone. Ding, 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 ding. We got to figure out what we're going to do. But when the folks who bought the house found out how much it would take to redo the house, they were talking about maybe tearing the house down or something. So Mom said, oh no, we got to get this property. So she talks to the minister, and they talk about figuring how they can raise the money to get the property. Okay, well, to be able to get the property, then that gives you just one lot, but you need a parking lot. Okay, well, since the park was next door, had been dedicated to my uncle, who used to live there, and the park district said, well, if you can get the okays from the family, signature of the family, then what we will do is that we will switch lots. Okay, we'll allow you to have this lot, buy this lot, if you help us get this lot over here, and we did that. So that is how, the parking lot came in. Well, then finally got the lot, but then he's like, oh gosh, now we got to figure out how to pave the lot. Sullivan said, okay, I will help you pave the lot, and we will share the lot. So Sullivan has always been very active.
Started outside, but what are some of these themes and overarching themes you had in mind when you were making it, especially in for the Black community?
Well, basically the overarching things are pretty much what they wanted. There's a history. So you have the family. The large family represents coming to Champaign. For me, it represented the first black families that came to Champaign in the 1880s. Black families have been coming here since 1850s. My family came in 1865, right after the Civil War. They had originally lived in Vigo County and came over looking for employment. My great-great-grandfather, Joseph, worked as a teamster, which is very much like truck drivers now, and he helped to haul gravel and stuff over to the railway. So they were building the railroad at the time, finishing up the railroad at the time. So, he got jobs from there. Other members of my family came up. My great-great-grandmother, Hester Ernest, and her husband, Oliver, they came up from Kentucky, and they settled in Homer. They had a farm and farmstead in Homer. And they had followed Oliver's brother, whose name was Frank, had followed him up. He came back directly after the Civil War, so about 1865 he had come back. But he had, according to family history, he had been here before because he had been hired out to a guy who was cutting trees down in what is now Douglas County, just south of Champaign County. And as a slave, they used to bring slaves up here to work, and then they would take them back and bring them up and take them back. And he ran away and came up from Champaign County. They caught him, took him all the way back to Tennessee, put him back in slavery, but right after the Civil War, he was right back, and he had started his own farmstead, and then his brother followed him. And then to make sure that the children could go to high school, they left the farmstead and came and settled in Champaign. So, and then my grandmother's uncle, whose name was Frank Oliver, we call him Uncle Frank, they call him Uncle Frank, He graduated from the University of Illinois around 1914, but he died in World War I. So there's a lot of history. You know.
Do you know, speaking of having someone graduate from the university that early in Project 500, do you know about, or could you make a comment about that history of black folks taking in university students? And do you know some of those families, and do any stories come to mind in relation to that?
Yes, there are some that I'm trying to remember. But yeah, there was, the University of Illinois was a land-grant college, of course, and it started, everybody knows about I think it was the Morgan Act. Mural, thank you, Act that was signed by President Lincoln. And so the university became the university under various different names in 1870. Okay, because it was a land-grant college, it could not deny African Americans or Indians to come, okay? So you could come to college, didn't mean you had some place to stay or places to eat, but you could take classes. So when African Americans came here, they had to have some place to stay, so they stayed within the community, the black community. And this was a tradition all the way up until 1965, because they still were not allowed in the dorms. Now, a lot of the fraternities and sororities, the black fraternities and black sororities, had their own houses. So if you belonged to a fraternity or sorority, then you could pretty much stay on campus because there was houses on campus or around campus that you could stay on. But if you weren't, then you had to find some place to stay. So there was quite a few families that had a tradition of keeping people. When my grandmother's, all her kids had grown and got out, so like starting in the 1950s or so, she started keeping grad students. So she would have grad students come. The Macklins that lived south at the corner of Ailes and Randolph Street, they kept students. Oh gosh, there was
a black dean who used to have a house that was more or less a hotel.
Right.
Over near the post office.
Right, and he kept students. And then there was other families. I can't remember right off the bat. I can kind of tell you some places where the houses were located, like here on 3rd and Washington. It's a big white house on the corner of 3rd and Washington. And she kept students.
What was the family on L Street?
Huh?
On L and Randolph, what was that family?
Macklin. They kept students.
There's records of this in the Urbana Free Library.
Yeah, there are records. There are records of that in the Urbana Free Library because they were able to oral history project that took place in the early 1980s when some of the folks were still alive. They pretty much told some of that, so we can get some of the information there as well. But it was something that continued all the way up, like I said, until 1965. 1965 was when they totally opened up the dorms, Project 500. And so it caused a little problems, because you open up the dorms and eating and sleeping there and stuff. And, we go from segregated dorms to integrated dorms. Doesn't always end nicely. So it's a lot of confrontations, a whole lot of confrontations through the process of Project 500.